Was our first failure. We did all the possible mistakes that any young entrepreneur will do. When you win, you don't learn. When you lose, you learn a lot.
When you started out, how did you get your first clients?
What made the biggest impact is the first website we did. They paid us $500 and we're like, oh my God, 2-3 days of work easily, we're gonna nail it. And that's how we went from $500 for the first one. At the end of year one, our top project was $8,000, and then year two was 15 to 20. And now we have some projects that are $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. The one advice that I give to entrepreneurs is invest in.
We sat down with the inspiring Aurelien Rigart, Managing Director and co-founder of IT Consultis. Aurelien discussed how to build businesses from zero to over $1 million in profitability with very little budget. Since his arrival in China 13 years ago, with his brother Yoan, he has founded and led several successful ventures. We delved into how you can build businesses quickly in China, efficiently, and with little to no money. Kicking off with his first clothing brand venture, here's our chat with Aurelien Rigart.
It was another time, and one of the first things that people used to do, I don't know if they still do it right now, what we're used to do is like the first thing, you will go to the fabric market and you'll build yourself like a nice shirt, a nice suit, like everything tailor-made.
It's a very expat thing to do.
It's an expat thing to do, exactly. So, like we get out of it and like you have like an amazing shirt for, let's say back in the day was $12. And like quality was good. Like if you put $15, damn, you have like a top quality.
It's good times.
It was a really good time. And, like we were like, wow, imagine, because you want to buy a shirt in the US or in France, it costs you like $49. And it's not going to be, like your own measurements, and like it's not going to be customized for you. So we're like, okay, how about like we try to set the online business, selling those tailor-made shirts. And I was still a student in Chicago back in the day, and one of those like nights with the family where for Christmas, like we're having a couple of drinks and then another drinks and another drink, and then like getting excited about like starting this new business. And then at the end of the Christmas dinner, like we're like, okay, how much money do we need to start this business? And we're like crunching the figures, like, okay, $15,000, yeah, easy, we can start 10, 15. That's going to be enough to build a platform, to start a business, and so on. So we made the decision on the spot. And I remember that was like on the 24th, 25, I was already working on the business plan. And basically, like the next day, we were like, okay, like let's start something. And a month later, we basically were hiring an agency in Shanghai to help us build an e-commerce platform that will have a pre-visualization and that will help you to sell online. So we hired this agency, and I was still in the US, and my plan was to stay in the US. But then like the economy was terrible, and especially in the civil engineering field that I was in, like in the biggest city like Chicago, New York, LA, like the unemployment rate was around 50%. So there was no for like this construction, because like remember like the first areas that are impacted are going to be construction of high rise, and so everything basically stopped for like 2009, 2010, 2011. That was really terrible like economy in the US. So I was like, okay, I have the chance to either go back to France, but I really didn't want it, or go to the Middle East and, have like some nice jobs over there because the economy was still pretty okay.
So, can I just stop you there? It's very similar to right now.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yes.
There's that option right now to go to Dubai.
Yeah.
Or stay in China.
Absolutely.
There.
Yeah.
So it's very similar and very relatable to today as well.
Exactly. Except that maybe in 2010, like Dubai and everything looks a little bit, like new, like
it was more mysterious.
It was mysterious, you would go there and like that was like the Middle East, like people would say, oh, like they're doing this like amazing construction museum and like Ferrari World, and like you're like, okay, but like no, like there was no social media like there's today, like where you know exactly what to expect, except like if you go to the airports, like that was the only way for you to know. So I never been there. And then my brother was here, and then we said, okay, we launched, like this e-commerce platform, but nobody can manage it because my brother is doing like so many activities. So I was like, okay, I'll go to China. I'll stay there 1 year maximum. And then in 1 year, I'll probably be millionaire. Our platform is going to crush it. And I'll go back to the US and, bye-bye China, because, that was never in my plan to be here. And 13 years later, I'm still here. Basically, it was a disaster. Like everything that we would have anticipated completely screwed up. So we were supposed to launch the platform as I arrived in September 2010. And I remember very vividly, like we were having this meeting with our agency back in the day. And we're like, okay, in like 2 weeks to 1 month maximum, we're launching the platform. That was like September, like September 5th or something like this. And basically 6 months later, the platform was not even launched. So imagine like how those $15,000 were, like every single day going down, because you have to pay the agency, you have to pay, like for some of your employees, things were going down. So my brothers and like other activities that we're having was like helping us to keep, like balance. But it was, very challenging. Like I was living basically with like 3,000 or 4,000 RMB a month at that time. And we're staying with my brother in the same apartment and, like trying, our best to do whatever we needed to do. So yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge. And actually this platform, was our first failure because like actually we did, like all the possible mistakes that, like any young entrepreneur, will do when they launch their business. Especially coming out of school, usually your ego is like this big. You think that nothing is going to stop you until like you hit the reality and you say, oh my God, like experience is not something that you learn. Even like you can have a PhD or like a 2 or 3 master's degree. Experience is something that you need to live as an entrepreneur, or having great mentors that at some point are going to help you to, like not make the wrong decisions, which is probably something that we're missing back in the days.
I think sounds like an interesting journey. And I think it's good to see for a lot of the startups that are here as well. Like, it is a lot of work. It always takes longer time than you expect. You're going to hit a lot of issues that you're not expecting. But the main thing, I think, especially with like trying to start a business that doesn't maybe take off, as well as like you're learning a lot. And that is a big value for whatever you're going on to next. If that is another startup or whatever it is,
absolutely.
You get a lot of value with you from that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like, like you need to pivot, like you need to be able to change, like, and the reason why we're here today is because like we were able to make these pivots at the right time. So like, I think the key lesson is number one, like you need to work your ass, like you need to work very, very, very hard and, like not taking no for an answer. So like there is like more difficult days than there's going to be like great days. The way we were able to pivot from, like these websites selling tailor-made shirts to what we are right now as ITC, IT Consultis, which is like the digital transformation consultancy. Back in the day, we decided to stop the relationship with our agency and finish the work ourselves. And in order to finish the work ourselves, we had to hire internally a developer. And this developer was very expensive. At that time was costing us, I think, like 20 to 25,000 RMB, which in 2010, 11, that was a lot of money.
Even now,
that's decent. I mean, if you want to have like
it's considerable for a startup, right?
Yeah, for a startup, yeah. I mean, like right now, if you want a good developer on the Chinese market, you need to put at least 30 to 35,000 RMB in Shanghai, if not 40. So like it's like the price has been skyrocketing. It's unbelievable. But anyway, so back in the day, and remember like our initial investment of $15,000. Well, you pay the agency, and then like you have a guy coming in that's costs you $2,000 or $3,000 a month. Like you need to pay for that guy. And so what like because like we are well connected and we're part of like many associations, we're part of the community. Like people say, oh, you have a developer now. Actually, I need help for my website because I need to do XYZ. And then we're like, okay, we can help you. And actually, the first website we did was for French restaurants. They paid us like $500, and we're like, oh my God, like 2-3 days of work easily. We're gonna nail it. Like we're gonna make like good amount of profit, or at least cover the cost of our developer for at least half a month. Yeah, it took our guy 1 month to do the job, and so the guy cost us like $3,000, and the website was $500. So our profitability on this first project was not very good, but yet that was our first project. So like what we tried to do, because like we had this vision of like saying like we're gonna reach a certain size, and like instead of working with a small restaurant, we're gonna be able to work tomorrow with like the big names, like the LVMH, the Kering, the BASF, or the Pirelli, or like the top brands, like in the world. Like our goal was to say, okay, like we have over-delivered for the budget we have sold. How about, like next time there's a company, even if it's a tiny company coming to us and they have a budget of $2,000 for their website, we're going to try to deliver $3,000 projects. So obviously we're sucking our margin, but like the next time somebody came with a $3,000 project, we were delivering a $5,000 project. So then afterwards, we're delivering this much, because when you're coming out of school, you have no network, you have no credibility, you have no experience, you have no portfolio. So if you want to climb, and if you're just looking for, profit, then like probably, yeah, you're going to be profitable, but you're going to stay at this level. So the way as an organization to invest into your own growth is like probably at some point to, like say, okay, like we're going to suffer a little bit in terms of profitability, but, like the value of our portfolio is going to dramatically increase. And that's how we went from $2,000, like $500 for the first one. Maybe at the end of year one, like our top project was like maybe $8,000. And then year two was like 15 to 20. And now we have some projects that are like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. So that's, like how you grow, like we're an organization. And even today, after 11 years in business, like we still like need to work this way, because if we want to compete tomorrow with the Boston Consulting Group, or if we want to compete against Capgemini or Deloitte, I mean, those guys are really well established. So why would you work like with an organization like ITC? Like you need to make sure that, it's going to be, more profitable, faster, and that, like people will never get fired for hiring Accenture. Even if Accenture is like
fired for hiring McKinsey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but like nobody's going to get fired for this, even if McKinsey is totally screwing up, even if they're under delivering in terms of value. But like if you hire like a smaller agency, a smaller consultancy, you can easily get fired because like they didn't perform well afterwards. So you always got to make sure that you like over deliver and that you take care of your reputation well. Let me share a story to back this up. We're working with a hotel group recently, and they needed to do like a very big audit for the Chinese market and for the global markets as well. And basically, like this is a digital transformation audit. How they need to like work in China with their digital, their data capture, their CRM, the setup of all their systems in China. So it's a very big project, and I didn't know who we were competing with, but anyway, we got the project. So I think we sold this project for like $40,000 or $50,000. And a couple of months later, the CTO of this organization left the organization. And so we had a call, and he was like, Aurelien, like you need to sell way more expensive. I was like, why? Because we're pretty happy, like with getting this project, because it was a great consulting mission. And like we actually delivered, the client was super happy. It's like, who you're competing with? It's like you were competing with like all the top consultancies in the world, and they were charging 5 times what you were charging, 5 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, your presentation, your decks were better, more on points. Your team was more experienced, more excited. So basically, all the checkbox, you were like nailing them. The only thing that, like was not to your advantage is the fact that you're not one of those big consultancy.
Yeah.
But it was like, those companies 5 times higher than me. If, let's say, like, the ratio were like you were half their price and not 1/4, 1/5 of their price. If you were half of their price, we choose you no matter what. Like now, if you're 20% difference or 30%, maybe we hesitate because like we're like, oh, but like if you were like, let's say 40% cheaper, like we go in with you. So it's like you could have triple your price, we would have worked with you.
Yeah, no, but I think that's a good point because I mean, you wouldn't get to that position if you didn't start doing those early projects.
Exactly.
Having like proving your track record is important because we see a lot of companies now in China, but everywhere where they start out and then they look at the big ones. Like, okay, that's what they're charging.
Yeah.
That's what I want to charge. I want to make a lot of money. But then nobody's going to trust you
absolutely
on that point unless you can somehow show a proper track record.
No, absolutely.
Then the only thing you can do is like, hey, I'm going to undercharge you. I'm going to over-deliver and show that we are throwing this out of the waters.
Absolutely. And you know, I have to say that, you know, I'm very grateful for, you know, like those organizations that at some point gave us the chance, you know, took the risk, you know, as you said, because like we could maybe have taken the project and completely screw it up afterwards, even if it was cheaper. So like they believed in us, you know, like they believed in our message. And like, you know, when we were doing those presentations, obviously they were, you know, like making sure to do their due diligence on our capabilities and like a really did experience. But also, you know, like some companies, they will probably, you know, like check, you know, like your last 3 years P&L, your profitability. Some companies will be a little bit like little bit more loose on that side. and say, okay, like it's okay, it's a small project, like they can get it done, and let's move forward. But some companies, it will do like due diligence that will be so intense that will be hard for you to get any project, even if the project is small enough. So those are the challenges. But yeah, in order to get there, you need to grind, and then you need to same thing as I said, like you have a project for $2,000, try to deliver 4,000, and then that's like the way you actually can grow as an entrepreneur and as an organization.
I'd like to dig a little bit into the challenge that you had initially with the agent, because we have that with the brands that we work with. They get burnt by a partner, an agent here in China, and then they spend all this money, get no ROI, no return. So would that be one of the lessons that you learned if you'd had really done your due diligence and looked into that trusted partner and the kind of results that they'd had in China? Would that have saved the initial time spent, the money, having that real trusted partner and delivering results?
I think that's a very good question. Like, number one, like, okay, maybe I can take, like this experience and tell you what mistakes we made as entrepreneurs that led us to where we are. I think number one, and that's an advice that I give to all the entrepreneurs and all the people that I mentor, is like try to go MVP as much as possible. Most valuable product, minimum
valuable product, right?
Thinking about
Most valuable player.
The NBA just started again, so I'm like a little bit. So no, minimum viable product. So I'll take an example. Like for this website, like we try to make everything customizable on the shirt. Like even the thread, that the color of the thread that you will use for the buttons, or the color of the button, or like the inside. So that means basically you had like billions of customization possible. It makes things hard, like to implement, to develop, to work on the logistic. But, like we were too positive. We'll figure it out. Like it's okay. It's gonna be easy. So, but you don't understand, each of the processes, like it actually, is really hard. So as an entrepreneur, you're like always, like super happy, like jumping everywhere. Everything's gonna be happy. But when it comes time to implement things, that you don't actually realize the amount of work that is going to be needed. So, I think I would not say that's only the fault of like the agency that we hired as well. That's primarily our fault as entrepreneur for not actually choosing probably the right one. Probably thinking that, okay, like maybe we chose like one of the cheaper one, and the fact that they were also French, like we're like, okay, like it's easy because easier communication. They have already built some similar system in the past. But maybe like not keeping them as accountable enough, because, like you want to have this cool factor. You're 25, you're starting your business. You're like, okay, I'm a new generation. I don't want to be a pain in the butt for them, so I'm going to work in a different way. But actually you realize afterwards, like you need to be very diligent, and doing micromanagement is actually not working in that industry. You need to micromanage, whether it's like sometimes your staff, or sometimes, like the different agencies you're going to work with. So there's a lot of factors that contributed to this. And obviously, if we were to start again the business today, like the way we will like do our due diligence and the way we will work on our collaboration will be very, very, very different. So sometimes it's not because you receive like a weekly, like email or like a weekly or monthly status update that the update is good enough. You need to like really open it, dig into it, challenge. When business is great, then like you're becoming chill. Like, okay, we need our margins, we need our revenue, everything is great. And then you become the cool boss. But when business is more challenging, then like you're trying to, like manage the team in a tighter way to make sure that you're going from A to Z faster than you would like otherwise. So actually communication is key, and framework of communication is going to be key. So what I mean by framework of communication is like, you're going to have, like team communication, so your leadership, then you're going to have each of the departments, and then you're going to have individuals. And it's important to ensure that for each of the segments, you have a clear framework of communication and reporting that is going to be established. So what we have set in place, and actually like two really amazing books about entrepreneurship that I highly recommend everybody to read. Number one is going to be Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. And the second one is the EOS framework. I don't remember who is the author. I'll find it, but EOS framework is like really, so it's an entrepreneur operating system basically, which is absolutely amazing. The scaling up methodology is really great to fully understand, like the different pillars of how to manage an organization. But the EOS framework is actually helping you to take it one step further and is much actually easier to implement as an entrepreneur compared to the scaling up methodology. So the big challenge that you see in organization, and especially consultancy like ours, is that sometimes people hear different things. So I tell you something right now, and then you're going to say, Aurelien told me this. And in my mind, I tell you something different. So even if we're at the same table, speaking the same language, like we're going to miss on each other. So I'll take an example. Last week, my head of production and my HR are talking via text message, and we wanted to recruit, like one person. And my HR understand that we're not going to move forward with that person because like this person will arrive 1 week later than anticipated. And they're talking in Chinese together. And I'm like, wait, what? Why would we do this? So I'm like going to my other guy, say, why do you want to cancel the hiring of this person? And say, I never said that. I'm like, guys, you're speaking Chinese together, like you're in the same room and you cannot even figure it out? I'm like, come on. So that means like communication, you can make mistakes about communication all the time, even if you're in the same room, even if you're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid, somebody starting from point A and going to the wrong direction, you need to make sure, because like, let's say that my HR doesn't communicate with me the same day, then probably like we don't hire this person. And then 3 days later, when I figure out like too late, maybe this person like has already chosen another job, so we're screwed. So the point is like, how do you engineer a system where you're going to have constant communication? So it can be, like daily huddle, like every morning that you're going to do. It can be daily email as well, where, like your team is going to tell you what they want to do. So for example, I've seen, like in my organization, like we're doing okay in terms of marketing, but like we were not going fast enough, so we had like, I'd say a framework of validation that was too slow. And maybe because like at some points, like we were, like the information was not going back to me with the validator of like a lot of the things that we're doing. So we decided to be in a more lean organization and to do daily email to validate everything. And what I've decided to do, like every single day, I'll validate each of the points. And we used to say, let's say 5 publications a week, or like 5, let's say, points. We attribute points depending on the different things. So for example, this speech is going to be 2 points in the scorecard of my marketing manager. The key is like, we went from like doing like 3 to 5 points on average a week to now doing 30 points a week. And with the same team, with the exact same team. So we were not working less before, but we were not streamlined enough. Yeah. So communication and framework of communication and framework of validation makes an entire difference. So finding something that, like you can have as your leading goals. The leading goal is like the actions that you're taking all the time. So it's like how many times you're going to go to the gym, or like how much you're going to eat. And your lagging goals is going to be, like your body fat index or your muscle index, or like your weights, at the end of your months. So like it's important to be able to illustrate for everybody within your organization what should be their leading goals and what probably are going to be lagging goals. Because if you don't work out 1 hour a week, you're never going to get the 6 packs.
We hate a barrage of emails, don't we? In our email inboxes every day. And to balance that with motivation of staff, what's been the response with these points coming in every day and them actually being actionable and making sure people are accountable? So if you're sending an email, let's say 9 a.m. in the morning, everybody reads it. Are people straight away on it? And are they looking forward to that email? Have you tracked the actual results?
That's a very good point.
And is it automated?
Okay.
Because we're finding this with the podcast as well. We're automating everything and trying to make everything integrated into one sheet rather than so many different documents. And so to break it down even more, what has been your magic formula?
It's a very good question. Some people hate it, clearly. Like some people say, I don't want be micromanaged. That's all. In reality, it's not about really micromanage people. It's to help people being more efficient. And if the team is more efficient, that means like you're going to be more successful. If you're more successful, you can pay your staff better. With some of my managers, like every day receive the answer, their message, and it's like, how do you drive them to the next stage?
Yeah.
Not how you micromanage them, but how do you set the expectations, like with a different perspective in order to better achieve. So you're not here to tell them like you need to do X, Y, Z. It's a very different perspective. You see with some of the managers that they're not aligned with the trajectory you expect them to take. Then like you need to correct that trajectory. But like when things is like aligned and you're on the rail, it's like super easy. It's just like a casual conversation. But like that casual conversation sometimes save like 20% of somebody's day. So as an organization, imagine if all your people are 20% more efficient, like the difference of like between an EBITDA of this much and 20% more efficient, because your biggest cost as a consultancy is your people. So imagine all your people are 20% more efficient. That means they can save 20% of their time or like make 20% more salary in the end. So that means like you can keep your better, like staff and like continuously increase them afterward. So it needs to be a good balance of all. I do agree.
Yeah. I see it a different way. I see it actually it's not micromanagement. It's you're leading them and nurturing them through the process.
Yeah. I agree.
You are spending time, but I guess the other side of that is, do they come out on the other side and then those mistakes are not made again and they have a better process going forward? Or do you still feel you are having to jump in every now and again and
so
lead them?
That's a great question. I think it's about, having the right people in the right seats. And the right people in the right seats will like definitely understand what you're looking for, after, like maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And then obviously sometimes, like you get like, you have changes to make because like even like as a business owner, you don't have like the infused science, like you don't know sometimes what you don't know. And sometimes, like you have defeats, sometimes you lose projects, sometimes you lose client, and those are the best learnings experience. So when you win, you don't learn. When you lose, you learn a lot. And sometimes you say, okay, like the reason why I lost these clients or the reason why I lost one of my key employee left is because maybe I didn't spend enough time with this person who was an A player and I was spending a lot of time with B player instead. So like I need to change, like the management and the way I lead the company. Or, like if we want to win more projects, we need to work, like in a different way with, like those kind of clients. So there's like constant wake up call. And as a manager, you always need to, like evolve to become like a better manager as well. And so once you evolve, then you need to make sure that your team is like following you as well.
When you started out, how did you get your first clients?
I think what made the biggest impact is actually going to some of those networking events, be involved in some communities and association, because like when you meet people, then you have the chance to talk to them and say, okay, this is my business, this is what I'm doing, those are my challenges. People are not going to come and find you. You need to go and find them.
Yeah.
So if you're connected, like if you're on the board of director of like this association or that association, then people will like have the tendency to respect you more and to trust you more. So because they know that next week when you're going to go there and having coffee with them, like they know that they can trust you because like this guy is saying this guy's a great guy, this guy's a great entrepreneur. Like, so it's about, building your self-image. Like if you screw up everybody all the time, and if you go there, everybody's going to say, this guy, I can't trust this guy. So nobody's going to trust you. So it's about building your reputation afterwards. So like the keys, like go there, meet people, shake hands, and then like get your name out there on this like beautiful sign there, and then like just progress this way and get along the way great net promoter score, so reference from your client. And then if people have like questions, they can ask your previous clients, hey, can I talk to them and like see if you guys were successful. So that's the way you get your first client. Just fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
But like don't fake too much, because like if you fake something too big, then like you're gonna screw it up. So you need to fake like a little bit more until you make it.
We're all about plugs at the Panda Profits podcast. So if people want to find you, where would be the best way?
If people want to find me, like WeChat, Aurelien-R, or LinkedIn, Aurelien Rigart. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. Like it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
So Daniel, key takeaways.
Key takeaway for me is, which we didn't actually touch on, is don't be afraid that probably your first year in China is very, very hard and challenging, and you won't necessarily make a profit.
Yeah,
we're all about profits of the fun. Yeah, we're all about profits of the Panda Profits podcast. But you're a great example of someone that's come through that, and then you've built a fantastic team that you don't micromanage. You actually empower them and
try to mentor.
Yeah, and having a trusted partner who can deliver results in China. And this is something that keeps coming up in this podcast, that you really got to do your due diligence and find those partners. So you're one, I'm one, Simon's one.
Yeah. And maybe just like quick addition to this, to like finding the trusted partner, because you see, like in China, there's like as well like a lot of like giant company. Yeah. And actually, like, okay, it's safe. Okay, this company is working for, like Nike, Reebok, and those kind of big organization. And if you, oh, you know, like I'm a small brand, you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to work with them because like they have a huge experience. The reality is that those, you know, like some of those big companies, that they have like 500, 1,000 employees. And so like as a brand, if you go and work with them, you're going to be like a tiny brand, and like you're going to have very little consideration. So that's one of the mistakes as well, like some organizations are making abroad when they say, oh, we need a trusted partner. Yeah, you need to have a trusted partner, but you need to have the trusted partner for the right size for you. So if you go in an organization and you represent 0.01% of their revenue, like then they're just going to give you like, you know, like the people at the bottom of their scale. So that's also one of the challenges. So finding the right partner as well as like aiming, you know, at the right level.
From my side, I think there's a few points that I really like what you guys are doing. Is one is the sales part.
Yeah.
I think that's something that more people need to get down to, especially if you're doing a startup or getting in here. As soon as possible, get your MVP, so get your minimum viable product, or an MSP, so minimum sellable product, which I think you guys did really early on. Don't focus too much on getting it to perfect. Just get it as soon as possible to the point where you can pitch it and sell it.
Thank you. And make sure you subscribe to the Panda Profits podcast.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.